Boy, I'm so sorry that I've not been with you for a few days, but look, I'm back in school. So that's why I was just missing for a few days, but I didn't get a chance to do my reading. But anyway, here I am, back again. So it's going to kind of be appearing a bit later now in the day. So either save it for the next day or log in later about this time, about 3:30, and see if you can. Well, it will be a bit later, 3:30. I'm just recording it now, and it's 3:25. So I hope you've all had a good half term. We're back with this. If you remember, um, our young boy's been captured with the orangutans, and there's the big Mr. Anthony who was kind of, wondering what to do with him. Okay. If I go back a little bit, it's because I've forgotten where we finished, but I think it might be important. Anyway, here we go. I sat there all day long in the cage with the orangutans, trying to comfort them as best as I could. There were always dozens of curious miners and their families around the cage, pushing and shoving to get a better look at us. And although most of them came only to mock, there were a few families, often those with small children, who just squatted there gazing at us, fascinated, it seemed, as much by me as the orangutans. When they dared, and they dared more when I smiled at them, I discovered some of the smaller children in particular would reach in and touch my hair, and would even let the little orangutans hold their fingers. They would giggle then, and I loved to hear that. There was a curiosity and a gentleness in their eyes that gave me new heart as the day wore on, and I needed that more and more. I could feel my spirits sinking fast as the heat and the hunger and the thirst got to me, and the orangutans too. Thankfully they slept a lot, but when they woke they would be looking incessantly and urgently for food, begging for it, and I had none to give them. All I could do was hug them, talk to them, stroke them, but it was never enough. It was some comfort to me that I could see Kaya chopping his vegetables, stirring over his stove all day, and ladling out endless meals for the miners and their families. It was fast becoming clear to me that in this place everyone was expected to work, men, women, and older children too. They worked long hours from dawn till dusk, with little time off for rest or for meal breaks. They had to scoff their food down in a great hurry, and were always overseen by foremen who strutted about everywhere, blowing their whistles and harrying them back to work, threatening them with their sticks if they ever thought anyone was malangering. I sat there trying to ignore the delicious smell of cooking food wafting from Kaya's kitchen. It kept reminding me of just how hungry I was. The orangutans could smell it too, which was a relief to me because after a while they stopped pestering me for food and hung onto the bars, looking longingly across to the cookhouse. One or two of the children did try to feed them scraps through the bars of the cage, but the foreman soon shouted at them and shooed them away. All this time Kaya never once even glanced in our direction, and I began to wonder if he had forgotten about us altogether. As it turned out, he did come again, but it wasn't until darkness fell that evening. The familiar night chorus from the jungle started up, and that was great comfort to me, to know it was so close. But it was soon drowned out by the sound of music pulsating from Mr. Anthony's house, and there was raucous laughter and wild whooping going on inside. I was sitting there thinking about how it would be for me in the circus in India, whether there'd be elephants. I was hoping there would be. Then I got to thinking about Una again, longing for her to come for us, praying that she would. And that's when I saw Kaya coming running through the darkness towards us from the now deserted cookhouse. He had a basket with him. He crouched down beside the cage and put his finger to his lips. He had brought us more fruit, but it was a different sort of fruit this time, with a coarse, prickly skin that he cut open for us. The orangutans fell on it at once and gorged themselves. I wasn't quick enough. I was quickly reduced to picking up their scraps. So I was over the moon when Kaya took a small bowl from his basket and handed it to me through the bars. It was rice. I put my back to the orangutans and shoveled it into my mouth before they even noticed that I had it. Luckily for me, they were still intensely occupied eating their fruit. Kaya had brought us bottles of water too, enough for all of us. I helped each one of them drink it down, then I drank the rest myself, until there wasn't a drop left. Kaya waited until I'd finished drinking before he said anything. "I like the poem very much that you spoke," he whispered. "I know it also. I learned it in my mission school long time ago, when I was a boy like you. Fine poem. I stay in my head forever, I think." He looked about nervously, then leaned forward. "Listen, I have bad news for you. I served the food in the house for Mr. Anthony and the hunters. They have big party in there. They celebrate killing of the tiger. I hear them talking. They are telling me you must be killed because you have seen their faces. You know who they are. You could tell the police. It is against the law to kill tiger, to take orangutan. If they are caught, they go to prison for a long time. They know this, so they tell Mr. Anthony, do not sell him to the circus. You must kill the monkey boy. I am very much afraid Mr. Anthony will do this. You know his face too. You know too much. You must leave this place. You must escape. But how? I asked him. Look at the padlock. There's no way of getting it open without a key. Have you got the key? Kaya shook his head. No, he said, but I have been thinking, and maybe we do not need a key after all. What is it you say in English? There is more than one way to skin a rabbit. Listen to them. They are busy with their drinking. If we are lucky, if we are careful, they will see nothing. They will hear nothing. I will bring knives from the kitchen. I have knives like saws, very sharp. It is easy to do, I think. I will saw. You will saw. It will not take long to cut through the wooden bars. And then you will be free, the orangutans too, and the jungle is very near. You go to the top of this track, cross over the other side and you are there. You are Wild Boy. I think you know how well to hide in the jungle. But when you go, you must go fast, and you must not stop. Mr. Anthony's dogs. When he finds you have escaped, he will send them after you. Won't they know it was you that helped me? I don't think so. This Mr. Anthony, I have been cook for him in his house since he was a little boy. When he was young, he was not so bad, you know, maybe a little greedy. But the greed in him it grew, and he became a devil inside him, and now he is a bad man, a wicked man. He does not trust me, he does not trust anyone, but he will think I am too frightened to do this. And before I hear you speak your poem today, he was right to believe this. All my life until now I was frightened like everyone here. Then I listened to your tiger poem. I remember it. I see the skin of the tiger lying on the veranda. I see you and the orangutans shut in this cage. I see men and women and little children working like slaves around me, and I am not frightened any more. He got up to go. I come back very soon. I bring you coconut too. I go now. Kaya was as good as his word. Within minutes I saw him emerging from the cookhouse. But almost at the same moment, the door of Mr. Anthony's house opened. Suddenly a shaft of light spilled out into the darkness. Two men came staggering down the steps, one with a rifle over his shoulder, both of them loud with drink. Kaya froze where he was, and for a moment I thought they might not see him, but they did. One of them called him over, and Kaya turned, walking slowly towards them, reluctantly. When they shouted at him, he broke into a limping run. I could see that he had a coconut in his hand, that the other hand held behind his back, and I wasn't sure why, until I saw the blades of the kitchen knives glinting darkly. One of the men snatched the coconut out of Kaya's hand, slashed off the top of it with a machete, drank the milk, burped loudly, and hurled the shell to one side. Then, unslinging his rifle, the other one came stumbling across towards me. As he came closer, I recognized him as the hunter from the forest. He was the hosepipe one, the one with the red bandana, the one I feared most. "Monkey boy! Monkey boy!" he called out in a mocking sing-song voice. "This time I shoot you proper, monkey boy!" He was aiming the barrel of his rifle right at my head. I hugged the orangutans close to me, turned my head away, closed my eyes, and waited for it to happen. I filled my whole mind with thoughts of Dad and Mum and Grandpa and Grandma and Una, and held them there, so that they would be with me right to the very end. For long moments nothing happened. Then I heard howls of laughter. I opened my eyes to see the two of them walking away into the darkness, arms round each other's shoulders, hysterical, with drunken giggles. Kaya waited until they were well and truly gone, before he ran over to the cage. "We must work quickly," Kaya whispered. "No talk, no noise." He handed me a knife. We chose a bar each, and set to work at once. The bars were thick, the wood hard, and each of them seemed to take forever to saw through. But it wasn't the time it was taking that worried me so much. It was the noise that we were making when we sawed. It sounded loud and rasping, too loud to be a frog, too rasping to be any part of a jungle chorus. I was sure that sooner or later someone must hear it. We couldn't do anything about the noise, but I could do it quicker. I got up onto my knees so that I could saw harder, work faster. It wasn't at all easy, because any movement inside the cage was so restricted, and because the orangutans would keep clinging to my arms and my shoulders. From time to time I was forced to stop sawing altogether so I could detach them and resettle them elsewhere. Kaya had told me the knives would be sharp, and they were too, with serrated blades. After several minutes of frantic sawing, there was a wide enough gap in the bars. I handed the orangutans out to Kaya and wriggled through myself, tearing my t-shirt. Kaya put his hand on my shoulder, and as I stood up, he handed me the little orangutans one by one, and they clung on. "No time to say nothing," he said softly. "You go now, quick. Whenever I say the tiger poem, I will remember you. When you say it, remember me. Now, go, fast." Doubled up, I ran off up the track, slipping and sliding through the mud as I went. I discovered very soon that it was quite impossible to run with 3 orangutans attached to me. I would have to walk, but walk as fast as silently as I could. Nothing else mattered now but to reach the safety of the forest before our escape was discovered. I reached the broad forest track, hurried straight across it, and I plunged almost at once into the forest beyond. As I walked on into the night, Dad's word kept coming back to me. "You can do it, Will. Keep going. You can do it." It was this echo in my head, this thought that Mr. Anthony's dogs and hunters might already be on my trail, that drove me on to greater and greater efforts. When my whole body was screaming at me, it was time to stop for a rest. But I knew I mustn't stop. The clinging orangutans were as much a part of me now as my arms and legs, and a constant reminder that if the dogs caught up with us, it would only be a matter of time before they tore us to bits. I walked on from the darkness into dawn, and through all the next day, stopping only for a few brief minutes to let the orangutans drink from a river, and to drink myself. But I soon realized that even this short stop had been a mistake. When I tried to go on again, afterwards my legs had stiffened, my feet were on fire with pain, and far from being reinvigorated, all of my strength seemed to be drained away. I knew I could not go on much longer. I wanted to believe that I must have put enough distance between ourselves and Mr. Anthony's mining camp by now, that any pursuing dogs and hunters could never catch us. I had to tell myself this again and again to reassure myself it was true. Before at last I was convinced it was safe to stop, I found the right kind of tree, climbed high into the branches, where we made ourselves a sleeping nest of branches and leaves. The rain came down then, hard and straight, but I was too tired to care. I curled up, clutching the little orangutans close to me, and slept like the wild boy I was. And that's the end of the chapter 6, and I think we'll end it there for now. I hope you get this in time. Okay, so start looking out for them until you return. And maybe we might have just completed 2 books in our time off. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.